If you could interview a recruitment entrepreneur who has scaled a successful global business with 120 employees, what's the most important thing you would want to ask them? Now listen in to see if my questions are the same as yours. Welcome to the Resilient Recruiter Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Whitby, and today we're joined by Clive Hutchings.
It can be soul-destroying in terms of not getting hold of people,
Yeah.
but eventually you do. And do you know what? So the more people you call, surprise, surprise, the more you speak to.
Right.
It is not rocket science.
Clive has 28 years of recruitment experience and co-founded STR Group in 2000.
I think, people have to experience the pain and the pitfalls of recruitment.
Yeah.
You want to guide them and support them, but equally, at the other end of the spectrum, if you support them too much, they'll get to the end of the year. Think recruitment, this is what we see all the time. Recruitment does, trainee, they're successful really quickly. They're amazing. Oh, this is easy.
STR Group has evolved into a collection of niche brands in STEM sectors operating across the UK, Europe, and the United States.
So support network around you
Yeah.
is massively important. It can't just be inside the business.
Yeah.
I tell that to trainees as well when they join us. You need a partner, a mum, a dad, a friend who's going to go through rehearsal of offers and pitches and all that kind of stuff and support you when times are tough.
Yeah.
Because it will look gloomy, but the light is just around the corner.
Clive, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here.
Yeah. So STR Group, can you give us just a sort of bird's eye view of, it's multi-brand. You have a number of niche recruitment businesses in the group. What's the sort of size, structure, number of team members, locations, that kind of stuff?
Okay, we're about 120 or so people.
Mm-hmm.
We operate in several key brands. So we've got Blackfield, which is life sciences and biotech. And we've got Urban, which is architecture, as in interior, exterior, not, PC. We have Navis, which is maritime, Insignis, which is high-tech manufacturing, professional services, and Talos, which is automation and robotics. And we work across, our core regions are UK, Europe and US. We've got an office in Switzerland and one in Detroit. And we do some spits and spots outside that, but our focus is those core areas. We're a mix of perm and contract, about kind of 55% contract, trying to go further in that direction. And I suppose that's a quick snapshot.
Fantastic. I am excited to learn more because I think the theme for today is really entrepreneurship, building an international business, and in particular, surviving the ups and downs because you've been in the recruiting industry for 28 years.
Yep.
And you're still here, you're still going.
Yep.
So that ties in with the name of the show is The Resilient Recruiter. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's some stories you could share there.
Oh my God.
Take me back just briefly. How did you get into recruiting?
Okay. So I'll go right back. So I left school with one GCSE,
Okay.
which wasn't great. But
How old were you?
I was 16.
Okay.
So that was business studies.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow managed to get a really bad job in accounts. It was a time when you had a bought ledger. So you had invoice, because receive note, order, had to send up together, wafer thin paper. It was awful. You had to know your alphabet really well. And did that for 4 years, managed to get day release to do business studies, ONC, and night school and evenings do an HNC in business and finance. Told her I had a job for life at the company, which was Southern Electric. I don't want that job. It was awful. Then I was fortunate enough to do Camp America. So I went out to America, a place called Honesdale, and the camp was called Bryn Mawr, and on a little mountain. It was like, Charlie Brown type scenario. And it opened my eyes to the world. I was in America. It was amazing, at that time. This is like 1995. And I just kind of grew in confidence, traveled down the east side, Montreal, Fort Lauderdale, New York, all the rest of it. And when I came back, I knew that I wanted to harness. I had some qualifications, had some experience, knew I could speak, had always thought about recruitment, had actually been to a recruitment agency and said, hey, what about me? Was a really old school engineering recruiter who didn't even say hello. And I was just like, okay, I'm walking out. You're not the right company for me. That was before I went. And then I came back and I quickly needed money, got a job in retail, sales, selling TVs and hi-fis, quickly cleared up. The competition was totally weak, but it was evenings, weekends, and I didn't want that. I wanted an office job using my qualifications to then move on. So I applied for a job as a trainee salesperson, went for the interview. The guy that interviewed me, a guy called Chris Watling, I was early, I'm always early, and I was hanging out outside the office, and this guy came out. He had a paisley top on, ponytail, kind of boarding at the front. I thought, well, this big crazy guy. Here's my boss for the next 5 years. And he trained me in the basement of that company. I went sick after 3 days. They bet I wouldn't come back, but I came back and I did about 9 months of pure business development, cold calling, getting jobs on. And initially they said, after about a few months, said, Clive, we don't think you're really good. We don't think you're good enough.
Who said this?
Chris Watling.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, so I've taken a pay cut to join this company, travel further, it's costing me like 20 quid a day to go to work, fuel, parking. It was Blow Bar, Southampton, this is. And I'm like, nah, I'm not having that. And there's one moment in recruitment that you have to get right. And that's to sell to a client to arrange interviews. You don't arrange interviews, you are nothing. So I'd go down to, it was on the second or third floor, and you'd have a little corridor like that, stairwell. And there was a toilet. And so I'd go in and practice my offer of a candidate to a client in the mirror. So I'd rehearse it because I knew that this is the most important piece. So I thought, right, okay. I went back and rehearsed it, delivered it, booked the interview on the phone. And these were telco, electronics, IT type people. And I'd keep, if I was interviewing a candidate, I'd keep the candidate there for like 4 hours sometimes, just ringing round, break all recorders, tireless now, just trying to get interviews, and wouldn't let them leave. A Visual C++ software engineer was gold at that time. So, yeah, sorry, that was a long story.
Yeah, no, this is brilliant. And it's so funny, the idea of what we call MPC marketing, most placeable candidate marketing. You have a candidate that you're representing and you're presenting them to potential employers, maybe some existing clients, but also maybe new clients as a way of getting your foot in the door.
Absolutely.
Showcasing the caliber of people you have and so on. But to have them like sitting there, okay, just wait right here. I'm going to make some calls and get your interviews.
Well, they were watching me. Okay, so this is an office not much bigger than this, 4 desks, chair on each side. Sometimes there'd be 2 or 3 people being interviewed, and there's a bit of a hum. And it was kind of strange. I'd drive 30 miles, go to an office, pick up the phone and make money. And it was kind of bizarre, surreal.
Yeah, it is surreal, isn't it?
So,
it's like
and if
alchemy.
if I was not doing a good job, my boss thought I wasn't doing a good job, he'd put a DVD in and play the Pope and gradually start turning the volume up just to try and make me exit the candidate. So,
oh my goodness.
Crazy stuff, right?
The wild days of recruiting.
Yeah. I mean, I never had the real wild days of the late 80s, early 90s and all that kind of malarkey.
I don't know that either. I was late 90s when I started, so it was still pretty intense. So my company didn't do this, but I had friends who they took all your chairs away, so you couldn't sit down until you made your cold calls for the day.
Yeah, we never did that. That was just...
Or you had to stand on your desk to make cold calls, or they taped, gaffer tape your
I've
hand
heard
to
all
the
the
phone
stories.
and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. We didn't do that, but if you didn't like the person, I mean, like the Visual C++ software engineer that I just kept there until I had 3 interviews. He wasn't going anywhere, because if he did, someone else will place him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Time kills all placements. And, it must have been so strange for the candidate. I felt sorry for them, but they were like gold to me. So
I think that's quite, you're showing them how proactive you're being and that you're working for them. It doesn't cost them anything.
No.
So I think that's quite, it takes guts to have them sitting there seeing how you're selling them, but it's quite pressurized, I would imagine.
Just made me think of a situation where I had this company, and I think it was Raycall Recorders. They were down in Hythe in Southampton near the New Forest.
Okay.
And I spoke to the client, the software manager, and I said, "Oh yeah, I've just interviewed a really good Visual C++ software engineer, MFC. He's got 5 years experience. He can come along and see you tomorrow at 3:00. If that's right with you, would you prefer 4?" And he'd say, "No, I want to speak to him." So I said, "Okay, all right," just because he's trying to I haven't
get rid of you. He's trying to
he's trying to think, yeah, you haven't really got anyone there. So, okay, yeah, no problems. I'll just pop you on hold and said, right, he wants a quick word with you. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah, sure. Okay. So I went, okay, John, I'm just going to pass you over to Mike now, or whatever it was, and did it. And surprise, surprise, he then went down for a face-to-face and got for the job.
I love that. It's so cool. That does not happen anymore.
No, it should do, though. God.
Yeah. It's I feel like there's a lot of things that are better about recruiting now, but then there's also some things that are lost, that were kind of valuable. So anyway, we maybe we'll come on to that. But thanks for the origin story. That's awesome. So what you've done, Clive, is really difficult to do. Now, that's to scale a business and. We were talking about James Caan before we started recording, and he told me that it's like, less than 5% of recruitment entrepreneurs end up growing beyond like 10 people.
Okay, yeah.
And so it's quite a rare thing. And I think part of that is explained by the fact not everyone wants that, because as I'm sure you know better than most, it's not the easy road, right? There's a lot of things that go along with that, challenges and so on. So it may be self-selecting that some people don't want to scale, they want a lifestyle business. But then quite apart from that, it's hard. Like what you've done is really, really hard. So like if there's aspiring recruitment entrepreneurs who are listening and they are on that journey of growing beyond just themselves and a handful of people, like what would you say have been the most important, like the critical success factors in your journey?
Okay, so when we started the company, I'd like to say we had a clear ambition to become X. My previous business partner might say that. I'm not sure that's the truth, though. The reality was that we started in November and wanted to make some money for Christmas. So that was the main priority. But ultimately, there were three of us that started the business. It wasn't just around one person. We each had a different set of skills. So there's lots of businesses, small businesses, that rely upon their leader and that person's expected to do absolutely everything and know everything. And it can be quite a lonely place. Mm. So the fact that there were three of us initially, there were two after about 18 months, 2 years.
Mm. That can happen.
One person didn't really do much. But they got paid very well to leave after a very short period of time. So they did very well. And Richard and I carried on with the business, but we brought in other people. We predominantly trained our own people, had an academy, etc. But you get a lot of dropout with that, so that's painful. But the pain in hiring experienced people is equally as bad, really, possibly worse sometimes. But the benefit of hiring other people that have different ways about how they do things or have done things at previous companies blends in. So you need a healthy mix of the external talent and the internal talent, but having multifaceted leadership meant that we could concentrate on different things.
Sorry to interrupt, could you say more about what you mean by multifaceted leadership?
So I was perhaps more focused on business development and winning business and bringing that into the company and delivering on that. So I was despite being told after 6 months or so I'm not very good at recruitment, I became that business's best recruiter, and I was good at billing. So making it happen, getting delivery, ensuring that if you've got a quality candidate there, that they get to the client, building those relationships with clients, and taking it to a point. Richard was stronger in strategy and thinking over where he could take the business, and some of the administration tasks that frankly bore me. So we all at the beginning did take it in turns to be the MD. And see who was more suited to whatever role. And over time, he develops more into that role, and I developed more in a business development capacity. So his ability to think beyond the end of his nose certainly helped, where I was thinking quite often about the next placement. And
that's an ideal balance, isn't it? Because I'd say most good recruiters are focused on billing, right? And it is a shorter term time horizon that you're thinking of, this quarter, this month, this week, like what can I make happen? but you can't really strategically grow a business that way. You do need to have the longer term vision and then the kind of roadmap for how you're going to get there. So that sounds like a good blend.
It was a good blend, but we also had our challenging moments.
Sure.
And you look back with enjoyment looking at those now. And sometimes having that small company of 20 people,
okay,
really hard to go past that kind of 20 number.
Why is that? Was 20 the sticking point?
I don't know. It was just like there's so much to do. You're starting getting to ISO 9000 and policies and more process, and you've got to have more process because that will allow you to grow. But the time to develop those policies and processes can be time consuming and take you away from billing, and the focus still needs to be on paying dividends.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's one of the biggest sticking points, I think. And I've spoken to a lot of other business owners. And, certainly the company I was telling you about earlier, Compass, that kind of grew out of STR through 3 guys. They had 3 that started as well.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I can see the benefit of having, well, if you've got 2 or 3 partners, then you can put 2 or 3 times more effort, energy into getting these things up and running, right? And getting that momentum going. So that makes sense. So you mentioned the multifaceted leadership. You mentioned having a combination of rookies that you're training yourself, so they're doing things the way you want them done, but at the same time bringing in some really good people from other recruitment businesses and blending the best of what they do with the best of what you do. So having that balance. Are there any other critical success factors?
Well, you need to have massively high energy.
Okay, say more about that.
Well, it's cliche, but there's work hard, play hard, and we have that. But I used to run marathons, do half Ironman, triathlon, all that, duathlon, etc. So I was always energetic, and I don't have quite as much energy these days. But I try and keep myself busy, and having that outside of that kind of grind that you get at the end of the week, when you've had a good week or you've worked hard, at least you might not have the successes, but if you get to a Friday afternoon and you're absolutely knackered,
exhausted,
not physically but mentally drained, you've put the effort in.
Okay. Fantastic.
And I talk to trainees regularly and say, "Oh, how are you getting on?" And they go, "Oh yeah, I love it." And I'm like, "Really? I hated it for the first 3-6 months. I didn't know what I was doing."
Yes, I was the same. But maybe they're saying that because it's what they think the boss
exactly
wants to hear. Yeah, I wanted to quit every day, for the first 3 months is probably because you feel completely out of your depth, you don't know what you're doing. It feels like you're just failing all the time, and you're not getting the amount of rejection and things that don't work compared to the things that seem to be working. You have to see it through long enough to start things click into place, and you start seeing oh, and there's a placement. Okay, now I am doing something right, and you can kind of build on that. But it's a shame. I think in fact, do you know Alex Elliott?
No.
Great guy. He's been on the podcast a couple of times. So he scaled and sold his recruiting business. And he wrote a LinkedIn post recently that so many recruiters give up too soon, and they don't see it through that really horrible, and he even said in a LinkedIn post, your first 3 to 6 months in recruitment are horrible. That's normal.
Yeah.
If you can stick at it, then it does get easier. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. But right now you're in the tunnel's curved, I think was the analogy he used in LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
And you don't see the light until you get far enough into the tunnel. So
that's really good.
Yeah.
I think, given the last kind of 20 months or so, 2 years in the recruitment space, a lot of new people haven't been able to get through that tunnel.
Yeah.
I'm saying that from my own personal experience, but I've seen that in other agencies as well. And that's really sad that they haven't been able to get through there, because in a way, I feel like it's a failing on us. So I feel that anybody that comes to join us should be able to succeed in recruitment. If we believed in them, then if they were honest and, perhaps not everybody is as honest, might have other things going on, we will see that. Then I see them jump from us to another agency, to another agency, to another agency.
Mm-hmm.
So
the problem is that you take you with you, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is probably not at STR. The problem is, I mean, it could be.
Yeah, it could be.
It could be not a good fit, but
and seeing success.
Yeah.
If you don't see some success, some wins, it might be at the lowest end. You get a telephone number, you get a recommendation, you get an email address. You have to take that as a win.
Yeah.
Because it's a step closer. I'm sure you've heard this before.
Yeah.
But those people that joined a year ago didn't even see that, haven't seen that. What we've seen in the last 4 months is a slight change in that, the focus is on getting people to perform as quickly as possible.
Of course.
Helping them perform. You don't help them too much, because then they think it's easy. But actually you've plugged a lot of holes in the colander. But they need to see some success to know that it's not hocus pocus.
Yeah.
That it's real. I spoke to a new guy that joined Urban about 5 months ago. He's had his first placement. He's working in the US market. It's a 7K fee. We give them, no, it's a 14K fee, but it was a split.
Yes.
And for new people that join us, we give them, they can earn commission on whatever they bill in the first year.
Awesome.
So they get, maybe enjoy the taste for recruitment success.
Yes.
So, and he said, yeah, Clive, I'm going to get 500 quid. And I'm like, happy days. Where's the next one coming from? What are you going to get for that?
Awesome. Clive, can I challenge something that you said? And what I love about this podcast is there's not one right way to do this.
No,
right?
there
And
isn't.
you're hugely successful. So far be it for me to argue the point. But when you said you don't want to make it too easy for them, I kind of feel like in someone's first, like you want to almost drag them across the finish line in the beginning, even if you're giving them the job, giving them the candidate, like hand-holding them through the entire process so that they can, they get that taste of success and the commission, 500, quid in their pocket, and they can get addicted to that. But also they, as quickly as possible, they see the entire life cycle.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you start letting them be more and more self-sufficient. But so I guess that's on one extreme. The other extreme is probably the way that you and I started, which is, okay, here, Clive, there's your phone, make cold calls, and if you're not good enough, then, see you later kind of thing. So I'm sure there's a balance, but I would err on the side of giving way more support, I think.
I think, people have to experience the pain and the pitfalls of recruitment.
Yeah.
You want to guide them and support them. But equally, at the other end of the spectrum, if you support them too much, they'll get to the end of the year, think recruitment, this is what we see all the time. Recruitment does, trainee, they're successful really quickly. They're amazing, amazing, amazing. Oh, this is easy. They're at the top of the,
right.
The hill. And then something doesn't quite happen for them. They haven't experienced any pain points. Maybe there is no luck in recruitment. It's about effort, right?
Yeah.
But maybe they were fortunate with a particular client. They made some wins. They got loads of money. Then they can't make a placement because they don't know. We had this with when we first went into the US market in architecture.
Okay.
These big fees were coming along.
Yes.
And a recruiter would, their first year target was like 100K or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were doing it with 4 placements. So then getting a promotion.
Yes.
Because our promotion system was not maybe fit for purpose at that point.
Yes, right.
So it didn't, set other milestones that they had to achieve in terms of, personal traits and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So they got promoted, got higher basic,
Right.
and then can bill. So
right. So they have a false
there is a
sense
balance
of security.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But you're right. There is
a
a balance, but it's got to be a little bit hard.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And this is a slight tangent. I don't want to spend a huge amount of time on this, but you mentioned the 100K target. It's really strange to me because the target for a first-time recruiter was 100K when I started like 28 years ago. Yeah. And it doesn't seem like it's...
No, I know.
Even though I don't understand, even though inflation, salaries have gone up and everything else. So 100K is actually like 100K in 1997 is actually like 65K now, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think
so
that is?
When we started the business, we started looking at recruiters, what we would take as a the fourth person to join our business, what we would accept in terms of level of performance.
Yeah.
And I started off with like 180, 200K, couldn't find them. Didn't exist. They went down to 150, couldn't find them either. And who's going to join three people in an office that's kind of crumbling, and we had our own radiator next to us to keep warm and all that kind of stuff. So we couldn't find any. But you're right. When I build at my first company, the equivalent stays 550 in perm. There aren't many recruiters do 550 in perm.
No, definitely not.
And there aren't any at STR that do 550 in perm.
Yeah.
We've got more doing contract.
Yeah.
But not in perm.
Yeah.
And like we're 50-50. So,
by the way, for our American listeners, that's probably about $750,000, $800,000 or something.
Yeah. Well, the exchange rate's the pound's getting a bit stronger at the moment. So unfortunately, I want it to be the other way around. Bizarrely,
okay.
Because we do a lot in the US and bring that back.
Yes.
So you're right. The expectation has got less over time. It is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But I've recently started doing a bit more business development in some sectors, in fintech and a bit in engineering at the moment. And certainly the way that you try and engage has evolved. There's more ways of engaging with clients to try and get hold of people. No one picks up the phone, as in, I'm not just talking about recruiters, I'm talking about clients. So even mobile numbers, I've got some US companies I'm trying to track down at the moment. I must have called them about 25 times. In the last, I'm sitting there in the evening in my pajamas, 9:00 at night. I'll ring this guy anyway because he's not going to pick up the phone anyway because I'm ringing Seattle or whatever. And hey, doesn't pick up the phone. And I've literally emailed, phoned, invited to Teams calls, the whole lot. But it is bizarre that going back to the point that the expectation hasn't risen. A senior recruiter's what, 250K now,
right?
But yeah, I mean, the average for us has improved quite considerably.
Great.
Certainly in the last year or so.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So I do want to talk about the market and what you're seeing right now, because you've got a good view of both the UK, Europe, and the US, which is valuable. So before we go on to that, I feel like there's more golden nuggets in terms of scale, because obviously you work bloody hard. So high energy was one thing you said. Complementary skills with a business partner, and then hiring good people, whether they're trainees experienced, that are prepared to work hard, that understand this is difficult and will persevere to get through the early days. But what else? I feel like that's not enough.
No. So outside that, I'm thinking about the people around you that support you in the hard times. So for the last 15 years or so, I've had a business coach who has supported me. And I would say her main asset is supporting me when I feel like I've gone from hero to zero and the world's crumbling.
Yeah.
And bringing you back to reality. And so whether it's personal, there's been some personal challenges, but she's always been there, a consistent person that you can go to say things aren't working at the moment. What should I do? When I was CEO for the business that we went through COVID together, we came together as a leadership team to really get through COVID. I was in a caravan. I don't know if I told you that.
No.
So I'd knocked down my house just before COVID and was living in 2 static mobile homes on site.
Oh my gosh.
So we had no house when March 23rd, I think it was, came up. And so crazy times, but she was there to support me. My wife of like 28 years has always been a consistent person there. And she's brutal. So she'll tell me, no, you need to go to work live, go and do it, get back in there. And by the way, you need to pick up the kids as well, And
so you've got 5 kids, by the way.
I have got 5 kids, yeah. Which is
must keep
testament to my wife.
Okay. Amazing.
So support network around you is massively important. It can't just be inside the business.
Yeah.
I tell that to trainees as well when they join us. You need a partner, a mum, a dad, a friend who's going to go through rehearsal of offers and pitches and all that kind of stuff and support you when times are tough.
Yeah.
Because it will look gloomy, but the light is just around the corner.
It's really interesting because what you say about the support network, I feel that I interviewed a lot of really big billers on this show and people who are doing like 500K pounds or $1 million or more. And sometimes, and then I know plenty of other recruiters who are just as hardworking, just as competent, and haven't hit those numbers, but have had personal circumstances that are different. So and you said there's no luck in recruitment, which philosophically I agree with, but at the same time, in order to be a big biller, you have to be able to, over a sustained period of time, be in your flow state of really able to perform at your best for a period of time consistently. And then someone else may have the same desire or work ethic, but life happens, whatever, they have things going on out in their personal life, which mean that they haven't been able to put together the same number of months in a row of consistent activity and everything. And so I do think that support network, allowing you to do what you do and really stay focused, is a huge factor.
I totally agree. And I think, big billing figures usually come with contract. So you've got reciprocal contract revenue stream coming in there.
That's a big help as well.
Which often helps.
Surprisingly, a lot of the people, so I'd say 90% of our clients and guests on the show are perm recruiters. And then maybe 10% either do temp, contract, or a blend of both. So I think you can get those big numbers on a permanent
I'm a perm
basis,
recruiter.
Yeah.
With a little bit of contract.
Yeah.
I wish I'd been a contract consultant from the off.
Yes.
It would have made my life a lot easier.
Absolutely.
You come into the week and you've got, 20K coming in for that week or whatever consistently.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that then, Clive, because we're talking about success factors of scale. And I know that like one of the companies that I worked with for about 10 years, a company called Amoria Bond.
Oh, yeah.
They scale from 15 people to 150 people during the sort of 8 years that I was involved with that business. And no, I'm not taking credit for that, by the way. It was 3 founders again, and they just worked incredibly, like insanely hard, and were super smart, super committed. But they were 80% contract. And I do feel like you can hire a lot more aggressively, internally. I mean, you can hire more aggressively because you know how much GP you're making next week, next month, in 3 months' time. Whereas in a permanent business where things are more up and down and more volatile, the risk of hiring someone and they don't work out is higher, right?
Absolutely.
Because
we see that all the time. We spend 80% of our time worrying about how much perm we're going to do when we should be talking about how much more contract we're going to be doing.
Okay.
So that's bizarre.
So what? I get asked this question a lot, so I'm gonna ask you. What's the formula for knowing when to make your next hire? Because I think that's always a big question. Is you want to go for it and grow, but at the same time, you don't want to overextend yourself and put the business in jeopardy. Have you got a formula?
Yeah, so we have nowadays we have a business plan, and the leaders of each brand will come and give their forecast for what they're expecting to do next year, how they want to grow, when they want to hire. They present to us as a board and to the other board members of other brands. So everyone sees that and gets a chance to interrogate their, maybe interrogate's a bit strong, but question them on their business plan.
I love that.
And then we put that into a forecast so that it's on a quarterly basis over when we're hiring. And we did that last October for our business plan for this year. And we probably need to hire a few more people right now because we don't have as many people as we would like to have.
Yeah.
I think many businesses are in that space right now. But we know that there is a kind of critical mass that we have to have in order to, ensure that the future is going to be easier to obtain than it not so. However, if you're on a small team, one of our smaller brands, Navis, they maybe got 8-9 people.
Yeah.
They can't sustain more than two new hires to that team because it's going to detract too much from the billing for that team. So, there is a sustainable element, and certainly we've got a few people we want to get billing before we're going to be hiring again. If you look at Blackfield, We put 4 people into there at the beginning of the year. That seems to be going, touch wood, well, and we're getting people over the line quicker. Now, that might be because we've won more US business, and that's dripping into the, this is the life sciences business, dripping into the UK economy and European economy. And we're picking up business in the Carolinas and bringing that back and picking up business in France, was, as a result of that. So
cool.
That means there's more income, there's more volume coming in.
Right.
It's better business, higher value, higher quality. We're not really interested in that kind of medium, low value perm anymore.
Yeah.
We are high value perm and contract and projects.
Okay. So contract is your bread and butter, but if it's a senior, like more of an executive search type
anything
role,
above, 10K fees plus. That's where we want to be. We don't want to be doing, back in the day, we would place service engineers, refrigeration. It's a dirty market. It's full of prima donnas. It's a numbers game. 3 or 4, 5K fees. No. We're not interested in that anymore.
Yeah. So if I'm piecing this together, Clive, there's a few ingredients for deciding, pulling the trigger on a next hire. One is the capacity of the manager to onboard and mentor that person to get them up and billing and kind of on track. And then I guess related to that, you mentioned like before we make another hire in X business, we need more people to be fully up and running and billing. So is there like
there's more to it as well than that.
Okay.
You need to have each desk sculpt out, who are their clients, who are they going to be targeting? That needs to be worked out. If you had a strong biller or a strong leader, it comes down to leadership really.
Okay.
If you had a strong leader in a particular brand, no brands in case anyone's watching from my business on this, but if you had a strong leader who could take 4 or 5 people and had capacity to train and mentor them, and then so be it. But there aren't many areas of our business that we could do that right now without affecting the ability of that brand to continually bill.
What do you mean by that? You mean it would take away, detract from what the others...
Detract from focus.
Yeah. Got it. So it needs to be, there's lots more demand in that market or that niche, right? So that adding another person is going to raise everybody. It's not going to just cannibalize somebody else's desk.
It's not going to allow people to hide either. We don't want that.
Yeah. Okay. So you need to understand that what those desks will be, have carved out, okay, well, so is there enough business, I guess, in this niche to hire?
To sustain that,
and be sustainable? Is there a percentage of like, we need the rest of the team to be X% to their target before someone else comes on board, or?
I think it's, we've got a lot better at planning pipeline. And when new people come on board and what's in their pipeline, then putting that together and then working out where we expect that to go. And we can, despite the current market, we can see that, this will be our 4th month in a row that the business has grown.
Great. Congrats.
Not a lot.
Okay. Still.
But if things go well, it will have grown. And that's a positive. So it needs to be very balanced. And it's critical, I think, right now that balance is spot on, because if it's not, it could easily go the other way very quickly.
Well, we definitely don't want to add headcount for the sake of it.
Yeah.
When you say you've grown, is that in GP terms?
In terms of GP,
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. And so
not in headcount.
Right. Yeah. Grown in GP. That's exactly. So I was at the Recruitment Agency Expo at the Excel yesterday, and almost every other stand, or maybe even 3/4 of the stand, are all talking about AI. Right. That's the thing. And the feeling I'm getting from the market right now is that the idea of just scaling and adding more and more headcount is, we're questioning that now. Is that actually prudent, or is it? Of course, we do want to hire the right people, and in order to continue growing, but do we need to be more conservative with the number of actual recruiters on the payroll versus, other resources, leveraging technology, automation, and that sort of thing. What's your thoughts on that?
Possibility. I was there this morning. It's still, we're a medium-sized business. We're not a small company.
Yeah.
A small company, you might make a right decision and you get the latest AI product and hey, you're off. Big company, got deep pockets, you can fund things.
Yeah.
Companies in the middle, they make a wrong decision, it's the end of their business.
Okay.
So the emphasis of the conversation that was there this morning for me was around salespeople being more sustainable, resourcing and delivery people less so.
Can you say more about that?
So there was an example of, again, it's another Compass who do all the hospitality, catering for large businesses globally. They hire 1 million people a year.
Wow.
They introduced some AI tools and got rid of 400 recruiters.
Wow. Okay.
So now that's probably in catering, hospitality, not in, board level directors.
Yes.
So so that's a concern. But AI is an opportunity, and you have to see it like that. Otherwise, it could be pretty grim, right? So we are just about to go through a new CRM, which has got some AI capacity inside it.
Yeah.
We'll see how that works. But you're restricted as much as what you can do individually as an entity.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it's CRM related and how that fits in and what's built into it or add-ons and so on. And then it's the other stuff around it. And a lot of it's automation really at the moment.
Yeah. So we have a few open loops that I want to circle back to. But while we're on this, what is your current tech stack then?
So we use Bullhorn.
Yep. Is that what you're moving towards or away from?
No, we're moving away from that.
And what are you moving towards?
We're going to Mercury.
Okay, I don't know them.
They're a Microsoft-based product.
Okay.
So LinkedIn will be immersed in that.
Yeah.
And I'm not a tech guy, but when we onboarded Bullhorn, it was not a good experience, possibly from the way in which we onboarded it.
Okay.
But there were some challenges for us. And this time we're going through a very different process in terms of, structurally and process oriented with our CRM introduction.
Okay.
So, and we're hoping that that's going to be an advantage for our staff. I think from just going back to the AI stuff, I think there's going to be some really interesting decisions for agencies to make if you're working in high volume, lower value type space.
Yes. And
there's already products out there that can, sift and interview the first candidates and so on.
Yes.
But that isn't going to affect us as much because we're working in a high value space.
Yeah.
And most of our people in our business are highly sales orientated.
Yes.
And less resource and account based.
Yes.
So whilst we have account based people, they are so engaged with their client base, unless that changes in terms of that relationship changes, then can't see any. You still need people to actually pick up the phone and
exactly.
That was an example. This guy was doing a search on ChatGPT this morning. You might have seen it yesterday, and he's brought up this search string for this, development guy or whatever, and then it was how they engage with the person and this whole pathway to getting hold of this candidate. And I'm like, well, you found the CV, give him a ring. There was none of that. Okay. Well, hang on, guys.
Fundamental.
Okay? If you found a candidate, pick up the phone and talk to them.
Right.
So there's a danger that everybody becomes this vanilla shade and everyone's doing the same bloody thing from an email, a Teams, or whatever it is, engagement.
Look, absolutely. And so it's so funny. In our coaching program, we, of course, are focusing on AI and automation and, multi-channel outreach, whether it's for business development, whether it's for candidate generation. And I think you have to do that stuff because you never know which channel the person's going to respond on. Is it LinkedIn? Is it an email? Is it a phone call? Is it a text message? Is it whatever? But as you pointed out, the challenge is that stuff, the amount of noise is only getting more, right? So people are getting bombarded. The volume of messages, automated stuff, is only going to keep increasing. And so we're coming to a moment where it's going to go full circle, right? AI is so at writing emails right now. I'd say within a year, maybe two, it's going to be amazing at writing emails. And you won't be able to tell, did this email come from Clive or is this a bot that sent me this email? But the only way for them to know for sure that they're talking to another human being is going to be
on the phone.
And so we're actually doing a course in a couple months' time called Cold Calling Confidence, and we're going to reintroduce those skills people have maybe never learned, or maybe they used to do it and they've gotten rusty because they've kind of gone out of the habit of doing that. Because I do think that's going to become important again.
Oh, I hope so, because that's one of my key strengths. So,
there you go. You are set.
So, I should be all right, right?
Right. I mean, there is the challenge of people not picking up, which you alluded to earlier. But having said that, it is a channel you've got to leverage.
I'd love it to come full circle.
Yeah.
It would be, music's my ears, because our staff get trained on that. It can be soul destroying in terms of not getting hold of people.
Yeah. But
eventually you do. And do you know what? So the more people you call, surprise, surprise, the more you speak to. Right. It is not rocket science.
Yeah.
And it's actually very frustrating. So, when people just don't pick up the phone, and I don't mean as in clients not picking up the phone.
Oh, you mean
I mean as in our recruiters not picking up the phone.
So I've got a quick comment on that, but then I'd like to talk about what you mentioned about the engagement with the clients. Like that part you can't really replace with AI, right?
Yeah.
Because those things that only humans can do, empathy, leadership, advising, right? Qualifying, understanding what's really driving, because what people say and what they do aren't always the same thing, right? And so whether it's interviewing a client or interviewing a candidate, and then reading between the lines, so they said this, but what do they mean? What do they mean, and what do they really want, and what's most important to them? And then being able to parse that out, and then bring these two parties together. An AI is never going to be able to do that part of it. So for any recruiters listening, who are worried about, is AI going to replace me? These are the skills that you need to develop and enhance. And because then, that part of the role is
it's one of the things
safe.
I tell recruiters from the off. Some of my clients have taken me on regattas. I've gone fly fishing in Iceland with them.
Cool.
One of them took me to Russia.
Wow.
Went and saw, Swan Lake at the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. You're not going to get replaced by AI in that capacity if you've built a relationship that strong.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, if you get a chance to do something like that, go and do it.
Yeah.
Because often it's a once in a lifetime experience, but it's only going to be good for you. You're going to build a stronger bond.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right there.
Yeah. In terms of the cold calling, a couple of, I'm going to give away a couple of our secrets from our community. So the cool thing about what we do, Clive, is that we've got right now about 60 recruiting business owners. Some are one-man bands and some have up to 20 or 30 people. And it's kind of like a laboratory where, I'm obviously teaching my strategies and giving them tactics that they can try out, but then they're sharing ideas, resources, tactics, tools with each other. And in real time, we're having like 100 experiments all at once of what's really working in the market. And so a couple of things have come out of that regarding the phone. One is a text message ahead of the call can increase the chance of them picking up. So you send a quick text. Now I'm not talking about sending a text via your ATS or CRM.
Privately.
I'm talking about your actual your own phone, sending them a message. Actually, you can do it. You can type the message, but so message is, hey, it's Mark Whitby from Recruitment Coach. Look out for a call from this number. I'm going to call you in half an hour or whatever. If that's not good for you, let me know, and I'll we'll find another time.
Yeah,
that's increasing the pickup rate because it's not a random number they don't recognize. The other thing that a few of our clients have started experimenting with is dialers, so you can get through a lot more calls anyway. If they're already programmed in, you just click a button and it dials a number. And then if they don't pick up, it automatically drops a voicemail and starts dialing the next number and so on. You can, crank through a lot more calls that way. But you can even do multi-dialer. So it dials 2 to 4 numbers at the same time. And then when one picks up, the others discontinue. And so what it allows you to do is compress, you can get through 80 calls in, 2 hours and know that you're going to have 5 good conversations, let's say.
We've looked at some of those.
Yeah.
We haven't engaged with them, any of them at the moment. I think there's a place for them. We use 8x8 in terms of phone system.
Okay.
Which is integrated into Bullhorn. So I think it is click and, dial.
Right. Yeah.
But back in the old days, it was phone call, email, text message.
Yeah.
Now there's just more variables.
Yeah.
But you're right about it's one. I'm a bit rusty from BD. I'm only just getting back into the swing of it, and actually I'm enjoying it. It's becoming part of my job. I'm excited to go and do it.
Cool.
And every rejection is closer to a success.
Right.
So there's lots I've got to learn about some of the new angles in terms of ways to do it. And I've learned from some other people in the business in terms of booking Teams calls, sending messages on Teams, all of those things. So it feels very cheeky just booking a Teams call for someone that I haven't spoken to. But I suspect a lot of that is going on. Is that working for you so far? No, it's never. I've only done it about 3 times. And,
okay.
It just felt so awkward and not fair. I mean, I've got to play to my strengths.
Yes.
So realistically, trying to do BD in Seattle, I'm unknown in Seattle. We've done a bit of work there with Boeing years ago on a test, not on a test, on a KUKA project. It was a really exciting project, riveting the fuselage and so on with KUKA robots. We were replacing all the PLC robots for that. And so we've done some projects out there, but I'm not known there.
Yes.
So in the UK, I'm more known. So I should be approaching UK markets. However, we're only 40% in the UK. So, but we still need to grow some of that through some of the relationships we have with some of the organisations and trade bodies that we're involved in, not REC, but others as well.
Fantastic. So this is maybe a good segue then to talk about your international experience. What do you see as being the big differences between recruiting in the US versus recruiting in the UK?
I think, this is going to sound harsh on UK companies, but I think you're respected more in the US.
Interesting.
We won an award years ago, 2013, in Detroit from a client. They had all their suppliers at the event, and we won the award for best supplier. We'd been supplying to them for 1 year. And it's not all recruitment companies, it's all companies, all suppliers. So, and no one was making any speeches, but I went up and said, look, this is just amazing. We never get any awards off, clients in the UK. It doesn't happen, but you're treated as a professional there.
Okay.
So that is a real advantage. It is a profession rather than, the terminology you get here, which is,
used car salesman or...
or I fell into recruitment. I kind of hate that one. No, you chose it. So you're much more professional. Obviously, the fees are bigger in the US. The margins are bigger. The salaries are higher. Yeah. All advantageous for us. The opportunity, the market is bigger. The competition, some of your audience might not like, but is in some ways weaker because it's more kind of mamas and papas type agencies, state by state. We're working in 26 states, not aggressively in some of those, but we still have to do the tax form, which is a bit annoying. We're winning large portions of business because we can put together solutions that are different to the local communities there.
Yeah.
So we can bring in international candidates. We can have them work remotely. There's opportunities for us that we can deliver on that other more localized businesses can't.
Yeah.
UK market, saturated. If you're in construction, the built environment, oh my God, it's totally saturated. Wouldn't want to be in that space. We got out of it. We were in it. It was just difficult. We were doing about 2 million NFI of about 20 people. It's just like, what's the point? Hard work. So we've chosen markets that we are continuing to work in that offer value and opportunity for us. Our staff want to earn a lot of money. So we need to work in markets that can deliver that for them.
Yes.
There's no point trying to do industrial blue collar, business. It's not us.
Do you feel, so I agree with everything you just said, by the way, Clive. Do you feel like the mindset in the US is just more people want to do business? Like they're open to, you've got ideas that can help them to get an ROI or to, improve their business, be more efficient, or, to, top grade their team. They want to hear.
They
about
want to
your
hear
idea.
about opportunity. And quite often when I've been over there, and I spent a long time in Detroit, I love the Pistons, but everyone works really. From what I see, they work harder, longer, less
true.
holiday.
But is that a good thing?
I'm not sure it's a good thing about less holiday thing and the benefits and so on, and the kind of 1% of winners and 99% of non-winners in the US population. But everyone's trying to get there, to reach their goal. There's an ambition.
That's true. So one of our clients, Lauren Steibing, shout out to Lauren. She's American, but then her whole executive search career was in Europe.
Okay.
And then she's gone back to the States in the last couple of years. And so now she's doing business in Europe and the US, but she found it she had to adapt. She's like, everything was faster, number one. Like in Europe, to hire an executive took an age.
Yeah.
And so she does retained search for consumer goods companies, FMCG, that type of thing, packaged goods. And she had to almost relearn like her process was still valid and it still was effective. But she felt there was more appetite to just like people would meet you.
Yeah.
And like even senior people would meet you.
100%.
And they want to do business.
Yeah, I found that.
Instead of putting barriers up and like, oh, we've got a PSL, so go,
It's bizarre. I've worked geographically all around the world. We've worked in Australia, China, Sao Paulo, Middle East. We've done all of that. And we've chosen areas that suit us to work. So when I first did business development trips, I'd ring Michigan, Auburn Hills, wherever, Troy, and just pick up the phone and ring people and book appointments to go and see them.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that in the UK.
I mean, I think you can.
You can, but it's going to be harder.
Yeah.
So there's a really good reason, isn't there? So, hi, it's Clive from STR. I'm going to be in Michigan in the next 2 weeks. Yeah. I was wondering if I'd come along and talk to you about our services. I understand you're working robotics or whatever. It's an easy sell in. I'm going to be there. I'm just down the road from Basingstoke. I can come and see you anytime, or whatever. It's also a very competitive market in the UK, and a lot of sectors are run to the bottom. Yeah, and we are not that business.
Yeah,
we're not competing on price. Yeah, we did work with some big accounts with public sector. Thank God we're not in that space right now, because I hear they're not taking the ENIC, they're not taking on the increased costs. Oh. So that's going to be interesting for PAYE contractors. Not good for a lot of REC, members. But there's a lot of restrictions in the UK market right now, which are making it a tighter place to work. Not least of all competition, but the government essentially. Europe, a bit easier.
Okay.
Some intricacies with some of the spaces. If you're working in Switzerland, you really need someone that speaks Swiss German.
Right. And don't you have to have a Swiss partner or?
No, we've
office?
got our own. I've forgotten off the top of my head. It will come to me in a minute. What the actual license is?
The license.
Yeah, we have a license.
Oh, okay.
So we've had that license for over a year. It was quite hard to get. But we have a presence in Zug in Switzerland,
okay,
which is the German-speaking area.
Yeah.
We hired someone, didn't quite work out. We just hired a new person who's actually Czech but is living in Switzerland, speaks Swiss German, at least for the entry call. Yeah. Because after that, within our client pool in life sciences predominantly, they tend to speak English anyway.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to open the door in their localized language.
Yeah.
Not so much in Germany. But in Switzerland, it's a very unique environment and culturally different to the UK.
Okay. Quick question then about international expansion. So do you have employees physically in Detroit, or are you servicing the US from the UK?
We have 2 employees in Detroit.
Okay.
One that is an STR person that he wanted, his goal was to move to the US.
Awesome.
That was his dream. He's bought a house there. He's living there. He's on we got him a visa and everything. So Gary is really enjoying himself out there.
Fantastic.
And his family are out there and everything. So that's cool. But we've hired one other person there. The goal is to build that.
Yeah.
But that might take a little while. The market's just a bit strange with Trumpism at the moment.
Yes. Well, let's talk about that. But why did you choose Detroit? Like, of all the cities in the U.S., why Detroit?
I don't know. What do you mean?
I mean, unless you're focused on automotive.
So we were doing automotive automation.
Okay.
Build of lines. They've all got robots on them.
Yeah.
So whether it's like a Fori robot or a KUKA robot or whatever. So we were placing the guys that program the robots.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
So we came across that business through a consultant. He did really well. We've been working there now for like 12 years. And we did scale it to 4 people.
Okay.
But it didn't quite work. And funny enough, we started going in the consumer goods direction, which is not us.
Okay.
But low level.
Yeah.
That's not us either.
Yeah.
And there's interesting scenarios that you have to cope with in terms of insurances in the US.
Yes. Okay.
That's a big challenge. And there's like a true up end of each year in terms of what you need to pay the insurer or whatever. So that's why Detroit. But I quite like the cold winters there, and the summers are amazing
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can get a great house and a lake there for £500,000.
Right.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
I'd love that. If I had my time again, I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe there or the Carolinas. It's quite nice.
Carolina's nice. We have quite a few clients there. So thinking about then international expansion, what were some of the learnings that you had to go through in order to get to the point we are now?
Okay. Well, I think we're still learning.
Okay.
We've made lots of mistakes, and we should never have put trust in one person that we don't know, and isn't entrenched within the structure of STR.
Yes, that's so
doesn't
interesting.
understand culturally how we work.
Yeah.
So we hired a guy, boots on the ground, had an office out there, big office, because space is just cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't quite go as we anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to exit that, downscale. I mean, we had an office in Lexington Avenue in Manhattan at one point as well,
Okay.
which
Wow.
we never actually had anyone in it. We spent about £500,000 on.
Oh my gosh.
Just ridiculous. I actually had left the business for a short period because we brought a CEO in to run it.
Okay.
And, he had other ideas, and I expected someone to go out from the UK didn't happen. So anyway, I closed that one, then downsized an office in Lakeside Circle in Michigan.
Okay.
And then we had a small office, and now we're just back up trying to grow again. So we've got a place where we can grow and evolve.
Yes.
But it has to be wrapped around STR people.
Definitely. So that mirrors 100% what I've observed from working with various scaling companies over the last 20 years, that the biggest reason for branch office failure is lack of strong local leadership. And the best way to achieve that is to have a missionary that you send who's indoctrinated in your culture, knows your processes inside out, and then they're bringing that to the new territory, kind of like the Roman expansion, right?
Yeah.
It's like, they're the nucleus that you build around, and that way there's cohesion and also trust, right?
Yeah. And you probably need like a 1-to-3 ratio.
Okay.
Until you've kind of built that subculture to maybe 10 people or whatever. And then you can probably I've certainly heard another agency that are a competitor, but, personally I've met the owner, and he's got a place in the Carolinas. But he said some of the guys there are earning so much money that it's really hard to motivate them. It's a bit like that scenario with Urban in architecture where someone replaced 4 people and it was like £100,000 and he's a trainee and doesn't know what, is asked from his elbow. Well, they're earning like, $300,000 or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, how do you motivate someone who's not particularly driven, perhaps? And that comes back to your point earlier about some people do all the right things, bill 150K, and then some people bill 1.2 million pounds.
Yeah.
And what's the difference between those two people? Some people are more motivated than others.
That's true. 100%.
This person might work harder, even though they're billing less, but maybe they're a completer finisher. They're dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and hey, you don't need to do that. You just need to do this to make it happen. Yeah. So there's a make it happen button that needs to be pressed with some people.
Okay.
Make
it happen button. That's a new, I've never heard that term before.
I used to write it down on people's, I'd print off about 20 little strips of make it happen. And also asking the question, is what I'm doing making me money?
That is a good question. And I've got a
stick
story
down their
about
monitor.
That. So wait a second. Tell me about these strips of paper. What's going on here?
Okay, so I'd just print off 20 of these, get some blue tack, stick it on the monitor. Is what I'm doing making me money? Yes or no? Because you'd often think whilst you're on your phone, I'm just filling time. This is pointless.
But what's the other one about the make it happen
Make it
button?
happen. Yeah, you have to make it happen.
But what's the slogan that's print?
It's just make it happen.
Make it happen.
You've got to make it. It's a bit like, I went on a course years ago. I was not doing very well. And not many occasions like that from a billing perspective, but this is one of them. And I was, this guy said, you need to get a mantra and you need to write down 3 things that motivate you and stick it in your wallet so you see it every day. It's the same kind of thing.
Okay.
You see, what are your motivators? I want a new car, I want to go on holiday, I want to buy a house.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how much do you want to spend on the house? What car do you want? Make it a smart objective.
Yes.
So then stick that on their monitor.
I like it. You could achieve the same thing with a poster probably, but it's...
Yeah, but then people walk past the poster and they don't see it. They don't read it.
They start
a bit like a mission statement. Everyone sees it.
Yeah.
Tell me what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I remember it? Because you've got to have it in your face.
Okay.
So that you do physically read it every day.
I think it's cool to have, as part of your culture, you have these mantras, you have your own expressions, your own terminology for things,
I've got loads
that
of
kind
them.
of stuff. So I
You've
like
heard of DIN, right?
No, DIM? What's that?
Do it now.
Oh, DIN. Got it.
Yeah.
Do it now. Yep. Awesome.
There's loads of those.
So is this making me money?
Yeah.
My very first mentor, shout out to Deirdre Shell. So I was a rookie recruiter. I luckily, because I said I wanted to quit every day.
Yeah.
Luckily, this lady from Northern Ireland was sat literally at the desk beside me. She swore like a sailor, spoke really loudly. I could barely hear myself over the top of her. But if I, half the time, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like chasing my tail. And I distinctly remember, this is probably like week 2, she looked at me and she said, "Mark, is what you're doing right now making you money?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Yeah, but you don't actually.
Okay, well, choose something that is going to make you money and do that. And that kind of stuck.
But in the first
with me.
6 months, a year, you don't really know. You're floundering. Everyone's saying, "Do this, don't do that, do this." It's hard, right? But after 9 months, a year or so, you start to understand, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But then you still get derailed by, can you go and, print this off for someone? Or no, I'm not doing that. You do it. I'm focused on this.
Yes.
It's about focus, isn't it?
Definitely. Focus is a superpower. How are we doing? Let's talk about the market, because you've got businesses in multiple countries. It feels really strange at the moment. Q1 2025 as we're recording this. What's your read on, what are you seeing in your business? Is it demand increasing? Is it shrinking? Is it plateaued? What do you see?
Look, we are a drop of, water in the ocean,
Sure.
So I think it really comes down to leadership.
Okay.
Of a particular brand. So if you have strong leadership in a brand, then you can direct it best given the markets that it's in. That aside, we're seeing life sciences and automation, probably life sciences better than it's been for a long time.
Good.
and that's across US, all three kind of territories. Automation is a weird one.
Because you'd think that would be gangbusters.
Yeah, but I'm talking about robotics.
I understand. Yeah.
And engineering as
Yeah,
opposed to an Excel form or whatever. So Trump's really not helping.
Okay.
So
How so?
Because it's a lack of consistency.
Yeah.
And businesses need consistency, need stability, so they can continue their focus.
Yeah.
Having said that, we are still in a good position, for those two parts of our business. From a UK perspective, it's just, we need to build more business, and that's pretty much the whole strategy.
Because originally it was thought that the economy had grown by 0.1% in Q1. Now they've revised it and said, oh no, it actually shrank by 0.1% or whatever. So
they didn't see the minus, did they?
Yeah, exactly. So that's not, and with increase in NI, national insurance
minimum
for those,
wage.
Increased minimum wage, it seems like it's going to be a flat year.
Yeah.
But as you pointed out, you just need to, whatever your circumstances, you need to make things happen, right?
Yeah.
There's always opportunity, and how you spend your time, what you focus on, which business you go after. These are decisions you can make that has a measurable impact on.
Look, if we do there was a sniff of a very big fee yesterday.
Okay.
Which is going to be like 100K in the US.
100K fee.
Yeah.
Nice.
That is a game-changing fee for a month for our business. So we do that.
Yeah.
Hey, we've had the best month we've had in like a year. Or whatever,
right.
So it can change on a dime.
Yeah.
And there is business out there. It's harder to get. It sounds awful, but there's going to be a boom in defence across Europe and UK. So if you're in that space, I was with the biggest trade delegation that we do all their recruitment for, Make UK, 2 weeks ago at their conference in Westminster, and they were saying exactly the same thing. Christmas has come early for those companies,
right?
So, if you know that, you need to go after that business.
Yeah.
So we're already in that market, so we'll continue going after that business, and a lot of it is contract, so it's sustainable business. It is slightly lower margin, so it's not as sexy as some of the other areas, but you can get volume. So that's also enticing.
Yeah.
So Rachel's not done a great job for us, and the whole country really knows it.
I see. Okay. So we're out of time because I'd love to keep.
I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this has been one of the most wide-ranging conversations we've had. We've kind of picked up on many different subjects. Just before I let you go, I have to ask about your sheep and alpacas.
Okay.
Because so in addition to running a big recruiting business, big for an SME, 5 kids, you also have taken up farming?
Well, yeah, we got a little small holding. It'll be nothing for people in the US, but we've got about 3.5 acres, which is, reasonable size here. Yeah. So we had 10 alpacas at one point. We were borrowing some land off someone to put them in, and my wife was taking them around care homes and hospitals. I even brought them into the office and put fake antlers on their head and dressed up as Father Christmas.
Okay.
So when all the kids came in, so we did that for a bit of fun. We decided that we had them for about 5 years. We had some born on our land. It was really cool. But we got to an end with that, and I thought I wanted to, have sheep as well. So I did a sheep rearing course.
That's quite random. At
a local college.
Okay.
And so it's only a day course on how to, deal with situations that come up when you're lambing. So I've only got 2 sheep at the moment. We've had others, and we've had some born on our land. And
so you've had a chance to put into practice your skills.
I need to get some other gloves, just in case something goes wrong. But in a few months' time, they'll be in labour, hopefully.
Oh my God!
We'll have some more, so it'll be a bit of fun.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It's another side, so that I talked earlier about having things outside work that are different.
Yes,
it's even when the shit hits the fan, I can go and feed the animals each morning, and you walk through a gate and in a hedge or whatever, and the sun's coming down, and think, just hold on for 10 seconds. this is what you live for. This is beautiful. This is why you do recruitment.
Beautiful. That's a nice way to finish up.
It is, isn't it?
Thanks, Clive. So much fun to meet you.
Likewise. Great. Good to see you. Thank you.
Awesome.